They actually did it. They went that meta. Let's talk about Scream 2022.
Hello and welcome to the Cavern of Terror.
It's finally time to review you, bruh. You ready? I'm ready. Scream 2022 is the 5th installment of the Scream franchise. It stars Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jack Quaid, and also marks the return of 3 legacy actors, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. This movie is also directed by Radio Silence, the team that brought us one of the biggest surprise hits of, I believe, 2019, Ready or Not. We are finally here. We're finally reviewing Scream 2022. It came out in January, and we are finally here. It's almost been a full year since this movie has been released, and I'm finally getting to it. I've said finally a lot.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Let's just not waste any more time. That's finally...
Son of a bitch.
I said it again. Let's get into this review. Right off the bat, guys, I just want to tell you that I loved the opening of Scream 2022. It had so many callbacks to the original 1996 opening. I liked the updated horror commentary in this scene, where they talked about elevated horror. You know, they talked about films like It Follows and The Babadook. It was a nice garnish to this opening scene. It was the complete opposite of the original opening that talked about films of the past. In this opening, we get Tara Carpenter, played here by Jenna Ortega, getting attacked by Ghostface after a phone call. This leads to her being put into the hospital, and we bring in her older sister, Samantha, played by Melissa Barrera, who becomes the lead of this movie. This is where the story truly begins. Where Scream 4, the last sequel in this series, don't get me started on why this isn't called Scream 5, but we're just going to roll with it here. Where Scream 4 commentated on remakes, this 2022 sequel commentates on requels. You guys are smart, you know what that means. A requel is not quite a sequel and not quite a remake, but it does reintroduce past characters. But this wouldn't be a Scream movie if they didn't take it one step further. That's right, this movie actually focuses on issues developed by the Stab series. That's right, the series within the series based on the original killings. I'll tell you right now, I love this choice. You can't get much more Scream than that. That's what I said, bro. Look. Well, now that we're talking about him, let's talk about Ghostface. To me, I think that this is the most brutal old Ghostface has ever been. I'm telling you, every kill in Scream 2022 is on the level of the gutting in Scream 4. I'm sorry, Olivia. Let's go through the list, shall we? We have knives going through multiple necks. We have legs being broken, hands being stabbed. We have headshots. Hell, somebody gets set on fire. I also want to give a huge shout out to the filmmakers here, Radio Silence, for having Ghostface attack during the day. I want more slasher killers attacking during the day. I think it's something refreshing in this genre to see the killer out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know if it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was pretty cool. It was a really stylish shot of seeing Ghostface and the blood just outside, American flag in the background. It looked dope. In addition to Ghostface attacking during the day, which obviously I think is really cool, I loved the, inclusion of the new voice changer that was integrated into the mask. It makes sense for Ghostface to evolve in 2022. The films evolve with new rules over new decades. It only makes sense for Ghostface to evolve as well. Continuing with my boy Ghostface here, I'm happy to tell you guys that, during my initial watch, I've only seen this movie twice now, but during my initial watch of Scream 2022, I could not peg the killers right away like I could in the earlier sequels, especially Scream 2. The killers there, or at least one of them, was very easy for me to figure out who it was. This one, there were multiple times in the theater where I was like, that's definitely the killer.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Moving on to the cast and the new characters, how did I feel about them? Well, I'll let you guys know that, I like them for the most part. I feel like these characters had a history. They felt like real kids that knew each other, grew up together, so I was down with that. I felt like their relationships were believable, but at the same time, I feel like Scream 2022 had the same issue as Scream 4. Like in Scream 4, I felt like some of these characters didn't quite get the development that they needed for me to really care about them in certain situations. Granted, some characters had really good development, like the Carpenter sisters, Tara and Samantha, and even Randy's niece and nephew, the Meeks twins. I thought they had pretty good development, but there were other characters like Wes Hicks and Vince, Kyle Gallner and Dylan Minette's characters that really didn't get that development that I thought they needed. This is why I always felt like Scream lended itself well in a television format. Clearly it did. It had 3 seasons. And the reason why I say that is, in a TV show, there's time to develop all these characters. In a 2-hour movie, yeah, not really enough time. I will say, though, that the relationships felt real, particularly the sisterly bond between Tara and Sam, Melissa Barrera, and Jenna Ortega, that felt like a real sister-sister relationship. I felt like they really did care about each other. As far as standouts, guys, Jenna Ortega, amazing in this movie, and so was Jack Quaid. Jack Quaid made me an instant fan in Scream 2022. Dude's awesome. Unfortunately, guys, the cast brings up a pretty big negative for me because I wasn't the biggest fan of Melissa Barrera's performance as Sam Carpenter, and that's a pretty big negative because she's the lead of this movie. This is just me personally. I've only seen this movie twice. Maybe she'll grow on me over time, but there's just something missing. There's a lack of a spark there that I was looking for in a new lead of a new Scream movie. I mean, Neve Campbell's here, but I couldn't just get attached. I couldn't get attached to Melissa Barrera here. And I'm not saying she's a bad actress, but if they would have went a different direction with the lead, I don't think I would have been mad about it. I do have one more negative, and I think I can see the angry mob from the Halloween series coming back. Is that a pitchfork coming at my window right now? Hold on a minute, guys, before you go and join the mob on my lawn that's mad at me for not really feeling like this movie needed the legacy characters. I'm going to explain why. And it has to do with the writing. It has to do with the story. I feel like with the story that they had crafted for Scream 2022, you really did not need the legacy characters. I feel like this movie could have survived without them. If anything, I would have enjoyed a cameo maybe of Gale Weathers, whether it be a book or seeing her on TV, in a small scene with David Arquette. And ironically, he was actually the first one to sign on for Scream 2022. So maybe he was the only cameo or appearance in the film, but then they brought in the other characters. I really did not see a reason for Sidney Prescott or Gale Weathers in this movie. Could have totally been just Dewey Riley. Alright guys, so I apologize if I get a little bit emotional, but it's time to talk about David Arquette. And I'll be honest with you, this was probably his best performance in the entire Scream franchise. I thought he was incredible in this movie. And man, they just found every single way to pull on the heartstrings with this character. And just facial expressions. They brought back his Western deputy score that was in all the other movies. The relationship between him and Gale was at its strongest in this one. Like, my heart was broken in two. Fantastic. Dewey was the best part of Scream 2022. We're gonna move on from that before I burst into tears over Dewey, but I'm happy to tell you that this sequel brought in a lot of things that I wanted to see, and more importantly, hear That's right, they brought in the Red Right Hand song from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I mean, it's not a Scream movie without it. Are you ready for this? Because I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be that guy that tells you that Scream 2022 has one of the best killer reveals in the entire franchise. I really liked it that much. It was surprising, it was shocking in all the right ways, and I would rank it right there at 2 right now. To be honest, I think this is the best reveal since the original. Speaking of the killer reveal, I'm trying to be as less spoilery as possible here. I know this movie came out in January, but there's probably still some people that haven't seen it yet. If you do want me to do a spoiler review for Scream somewhere down the line, let me know down in the comments down below, and I will indulge you on that because I love talking about Scream. But man, let me tell you, one of the scariest things about the antagonists here is just how in awe they were of the plan, watching the plan unfold. It was terrifying. It was really one of those things where you sit there and think about it and be like, wow, they're getting off on this. That's terrifying. On that note, that brings me to the batshit third act of Scream 2022. Imagine the intensity of Ready or Not, the entire movie, the intensity of In Ready or Not, compacted down into about 25 minutes. Yeah, the third act of this film is insanity, and I loved it. In the end, guys, it is rating time. Now, what did I think? A Scream superfan, what did I think of the newest sequel in the Scream franchise? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to give it a very intrigued. As far as sequels go to the original 1996 film, I feel like Scream 2022 is a strong contender as one of the best. I like the characters and the actors that portrayed them, even with, you know, my problems with them bringing back the legacy cast and the fact that I don't think they needed all of them, and even with my issue with the main character. I still think that she's a good character. It's just, I still had issues there, but I still liked the performances for the most part, and I thought that it was solid when it came to characters and acting. The kills were good. I think they fell in line with the rest of the Scream kills, even though they were a lot more brutal in this one. The stabbings, I know it's stabbings and gunshots, but at the same time, they were way more brutal stabbings than we've seen in the other movies, aside from the one kill in Scream 4. I really liked that, and I liked the story here. I thought it was well crafted, and I feel like this was a solid launching point to start a new Scream series. As we already know, there is a Scream sequel announced and coming in 2023. There's a lot of casting has already been done, and it's going to take place in NYC, so there's going to be more Scream content here on the channel. Alright, that is it. I reviewed this bitch. I reviewed Scream 2022. What did you think of this 5th installment of the Scream franchise? Let me know down in the comments down below. It feels so good to finally have done this movie. And if you have any ideas or requests for more Scream content, let me know down in the comments down below because I love talking about it. If you like this video, guys, make sure you give it a like, and if you're new to the Cavern of Terror and you want to see more of my content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. It helps out the channel, bruh. And hit those notifications to all. That way you get notified about all the future content. That includes my review of Clive Barker's Hellraiser. That's right, I am doing every sequel in the Hellraiser series, including and up to the new Hulu original Hellraiser reimagining. This series is probably going to take all of my lifeblood, and you know, that's pretty apt considering what this movie series is about. But there are other things coming to the channel as well, more individual reviews. I'm gonna try to break this series up, that way it's not nothing but Hellraiser reviews. So there will be other standalone reviews coming to the channel, but I'm gonna get out of here. I'm probably gonna down the rest of this water because I've been talking for about an hour. But I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. But most importantly, I'm Zach, this has been Cavern of Terror. Stay metal, my friends.